Ooh, Jesus. Who cut an onion? Somebody cutting onions in here? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Tamara here with the Mompreneur plug. Hey sis or bro. On my channel, I help mothers embrace who they are outside of motherhood. Welcome back. Those of you who've been on my channel for a while, this is not a familiar face to you. You already know this is my husband, Cody. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you.
Glad to be back.
I am.
So
it's because of y'all that I keep coming back.
That is true. That's true. They'd be like, where Cody at? Anyway. So I wanted to make this video because I have mentioned for a long time about the fact that I was extremely sick when I started my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see from the title and the thumbnail, I was literally like near death is what the whole experience felt like. And so let's jump right into it. Back in September of 2019,
mm-hmm.
Y'all, literally, it started off with a bump under my armpit. I had a bump under my armpit, and it had been bothering me for at least 2 months. And it felt like what was an ingrown hair. And y'all know those ingrown hairs be like. And so, and I had just shifted to using like natural deodorant
mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So my body was getting used to it or whatever. But I think I had just shaved. I think I at the time hadn't started using natural. I was still using antiperspirant deodorant. So those of you who don't know, antiperspirant holds in toxins. It doesn't allow your body to release it. And so it's much easier for you to get things like ingrown hairs and stuff like that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So anyway, long story short, had a knot under my arm, had it for about 2 months. It had started getting really swollen, really big. It was a huge knot and it was sore. I couldn't even lift my arm.
It was big.
Went to the ER and I was just like, actually, it was like 10 o'clock at night and we had a friend over and I was like, listen, can y'all sit with the boys real quick? We're going to go to the ER and just let them like cut this open and drain it because it's just getting unbearable. And we had to sing praise and worship the next morning. And I know when I be worshiping, I be lifting my hands. And I was like, I ain't gonna be to lift if my arm. So the doctor at the time said he's like, it doesn't feel like it's got like any type of pus or anything. It just feels like it's just inflamed. He was like, but I'll still try to give you some relief. Went to cut it and tell him what happened. Do you remember?
No. I'll say this. Like, it wasn't draining. I remember that. Like, there was nothing in there. It was just like.
But you don't remember the disgusting thing that happened?
No.
This was over a year ago, so I'll give you a pass. But he went to cut it open, or like they poked it with needles to numb it, and then they went to try to drain it, and it was just blood.
Did it like squirt out? Was that the nasty
it just
part?
Fell down and was just all over the emergency
that
room
is okay.
floor
I
and everything.
That. Yeah.
And so he was like, well, now we know that it's not full of pus. So they gave me Vicodin to help with the pain because they had numbed it and cut it, and it was just a lot going on. And we got home about 2 a.m. Around 4:30, I woke up and I was nauseated. Like I couldn't even. I was so nauseated, like it was unbearable. And I was nauseated from about 4 to 9. And it got to the point where I was like, babe, I can't take it. And then I started vomiting.
Yeah.
And so Cody's like, well, we need to go back to the emergency room. Something's wrong with you. Do you remember what happened from there?
I remember my thought being, she's having an allergic reaction to the medicine. That was my thought. Because, you know, in the age of information, we all self-diagnose at some point. Sometimes we self-diagnose ourselves too far, but we still do it anyway. We took her in, and that wasn't it. Really couldn't figure out what was going on. It was really shades of, I hate to bring up something old, but it was shades of what happened after she had CJ. As far as not being able to figure out what the heck was going on.
Yeah,
it was bad.
It was real bad. They we were literally in and out of the emergency room for about 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
The second day after being in the emergency room and sick, fever.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't talking about, 99.9, 100. I'm talking about 104 fever. And it wasn't going away. I was sick, vomiting, had migraines. I couldn't eat. And so the second day, I'm in the hospital bed, literally crying out for my mom. So my mom comes. She travels 3 hours from my hometown.
I called her, which I've never asked her to come down, like ever. And she's been down when when Tam's been in like sick situations or whatever. But I've never called her personally. Tam calls and asks for her, but I was like, Ma, yeah, I need you to come. Because it was bad.
It was bad. Like I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
I remember my legs, it had gotten to the point where my legs were hurting and cramping, and like it was just like this pain for a while. I couldn't describe it. But later on I realized it felt like almost like the circulation was being cut out of my legs. It's like your legs being sleep times 10 with like radiating heat and pain. And I couldn't walk. They took me to get a CT scan. They wanted to scan like my abdominal area, had me stand. I could not stand up. I was boohoo crying, and the lady was like, "Baby, just please stand still." I can't. I couldn't have my weight on one leg. I had to keep shifting my leg. I could not stand up. Everywhere I went, I had to be rolled in a wheelchair.
Yep.
And I was in excruciating pain. I was uncomfortable, and there was nothing was giving me comfort. Even the medicines that knock me out or like take a pain away, I was still wide awake, still in pain. And so my mom ended up getting here. She had started coming to, because like I said, we had been to the emergency room 4 or 5 times. Got to the point where I had been in my doctor's office, and he was like, "Okay, something is not right." They thought I might have had bacterial or viral meningitis.
Yeah.
But my white blood cell count wasn't high enough to pretty much like confirm that. And so, because I was having trouble with my back, my legs, I had a headache, like nothing was working. And so my doctor wanted to admit me into the hospital, put me on some antibiotics, like pump me with some fluids. But he no longer was associated with the hospital anymore, so he didn't have admitting privileges. So he was trying to use his influence as a physician to call the hospital and say, "Hey, listen, I need y'all to admit her." But the emergency room doctor on call, he brought me in. He ran all of these tests. They couldn't find anything wrong. And the emergency room doctor was like, "Well, we don't have a reason to admit her." And he's like, "Just admit her. She's sick. Like, just get her." They wouldn't admit me. I don't know why they wouldn't admit me. I have my own theories on that, but I ain't gonna get on that on this platform. But they wouldn't admit me. And so the doctor,
sorry.
You know what I'm talking about. And so the doctor, my doctor ended up talking to the infectious disease doctor, who also kind of felt like I might have need to be admitted, but they could never. So my doctor was like, "Listen, go home. We're going to try again, try to get them to admit you." Never could get admitted.
Right.
And so slowly but surely, I started feeling better. The fever broke, but my legs, I was still very weak. I still didn't have much of an appetite, and I had lost a tremendous amount of weight. And in the meantime, I'm getting ready to move into an office space for my business. Shout out to Center Stage Education and Consulting. I remember that time like it was yesterday, because I literally got out of my bed. I had canceled my sessions with all of my clients because I literally had a fever and I could not sit up. And I wouldn't have been any good to any of my students. And I remember that feeling of I let them down. And I actually lost some clients during that time, and it hurt. It hurt so bad, because I'm like, they have no idea where I'm going. If they could just wait just a couple of weeks. I lost some clients, and I know it wasn't personal, but it hurt. And I have pictures, and I will post them. But I remember, ooh, Jesus. Who cut an onion? Somebody cutting onions in here? I remember it was September 7th was when this all happened. On September 15th was when, and it happened so fast, was when I signed the lease to our new office space. And
that was the first like 200 square foot, like the small
office. And we signed the lease, and then I think a few days later, myself and my co-director and Cody and my mom, we all went over there and started moving stuff in. And I literally had to sit on the floor most of the time. I couldn't stand. And I was miserable. Like,
it doesn't feel like that's when all of this happened. Like, that's crazy.
I was miserable. I was miserable because I literally couldn't stand up. I couldn't really do for myself. I couldn't take my baby. He had just started kindergarten, and I couldn't take him to school. My mom literally was here. At that point, my mom had been here for about a week and a half. And what ended up turning into a week and a half turned into 3 months. My mom was here, and she was getting every day. I need to stop chopping them onions. She was getting up every day, and she getting my babies ready for school so Cody could go to work. She was taking them, dropping them off. And I couldn't even get up. I would just literally I was in the bed all day. And I would get up, I would muster enough strength to go tutor my clients, and I would come home, and just 1 hour tutoring sessions. I would come back home, and that would literally take all my strength away. And we made a big deal, like when I could cook something, like I would literally sit in a chair at the stove and cook. And I had to do that because I was like, if I don't do anything, I was just feeling pointless and worthless. And my counselor kept saying, your worth isn't dependent upon what you do. You're already worthy. Excuse me. Facts. That'll preach on his own. Did that stink? Did that bird stink?
Here we go again. No, I didn't smell anything.
But anyway, so long story, extremely long. We ended up moving into the office. The business continued to flourish even in the midst of that.
Right.
But I was still very sick. And I think what became the problem was I got a lot of backlash from friends. I got a lot of backlash from like other things that was going on because one thing about me, I'm a strong individual, and that's not me tooting my own horn. That's just my personality. It's very rare that I'm gonna let people see me sweat. And when I do, it means I'm close to you and I'm open enough to be vulnerable. And honestly, this is the first platform that I've really been vulnerable in that space. It's because I want you guys you're subscribed to me. I want you to understand who I am and welcome you with open arms into my life. I made that choice.